3-bucket retirement holdings using Vanguard funds. This is pretty neat, man. A guy named Dan from Massachusetts, who I've talked to, sent this to me just for my thoughts. And I said, would you mind if I use this on the video? He goes, no, he'd be honored. So let's bring this up a little bit, actually. Yeah, much. Oh, yeah, there you go. Sweet. All right, so what I got my hat on just because my hair has got hat head. All right, so what's happening here? Dan's using the 3-bucket approach. Now, my preference is the 3-bucket approach. It really is. My concern is most people, their eyes glaze over. I mean, I've done dozens of seminars and talked about the bucket approach. You could just see them like, ugh. And the reason for that is just too much. And you'll see here there's too much going on for most people. So that's why I just like the idea of the 2-bucket approach, the barbell. Cash, CDs, we'll get into Ginnie Mae on one plate and then everything else on the total stock index on the other, for instance. But if you have the intestinal fortitude to actually take the bull by the horns and manage your accounts a little bit more on an active basis. When I say active, I'm not saying like actively trading. It's not like that. But just, looking at it on a regular basis, once every, maybe twice a year. Does anything need to be get out of whack? Like right now is a perfect time. Well, today the market's killing it, or at least it was. Right now, though, is a perfect time to sell some bonds and move into stocks. Absolutely. If you don't do that, that's fine. But if you are more active, a 3-bucket thing actually works real well because you have stocks, intermediate stuff, and cash. And I'm a big fan. Big fan. All right, so what Dan has devised, he did this using all Vanguard funds. I don't think he's got ETFs back there. Frankly, it doesn't matter. So let's go into this. I'll show you what we're talking about. Again, 3 buckets. All right, and what's the word? I'll give you my thoughts on where he might be able to approve. So the first bucket, he's got just Ginnie Mae. All right, VFIIX. He's got 10%. So let me just show you. He's got 10% in the first bucket, 30% in the second bucket, and 60% third. Stocks, intermediate stuff, liquid accounts. All right. Oops, I just said something. So in this bucket, he's holding 10% in the Vanguard Ginnie Mae fund. I love Ginnie Mae. I'm not sure how much Dan, if he has cash or not, I just don't know. I still think you still need a little bit of cash because while Ginnie Mae is liquid, there's no real risk to there whatsoever. It pays better than cash. Having some cash on the side just makes sense. We're going to assume that Dan's got a couple $1,000 sitting on the side account at the bank or something like that. I just can't remember. That way, if you get a leak or something like that, he has enough money to pay just out of pocket as opposed to taking a distribution from one of his accounts. So in this case, he's got 10% in Ginnie Mae, VFIIX. Bucket 2, he's got 30%. He's got 5 different funds. He's got Wellesley, all right, that's a Wellesley Income Fund. 35% stocks, 65% bonds. He's got the, I think that's the Target, let's see, what is that right there? That is the Target, this guy, right, the Target Retirement Income Fund. I can't remember how much is stocks and bonds there. I think it's 40-60 if memory serves, maybe 35-65. But he's got the Wellesley, then he's got the Target Income Fund. He's got, here is the VB, what is this guy? Hold on just a second, mi amigos. That's my friends in Spanish. He's got VBTLX, that's a Vanguard Total Bond Index. So he's got Wellesley Income Fund, 3565, Target Retirement Fund, Target Retirement Income Fund. Again, I think it's 3565 as well. We'll have some international in here, have some smaller companies where Wellesley is just large cap. He's got the total bond index, all right, and that's just mostly it's going to be government bonds in here. And then he's got VTAP, the short-term inflation protected securities, and then he's got the short-term bond index. All right, so he's got 3% of both these guys. So his biggest holding is a bond index, the total bond index, with some retirement, target retirement, and with some Wellesley Income Fund. All right, so all 5 of those equate to 30%. The remaining, he's got the Vanguard Dividend Growth Fund, which I own. He's got the Vanguard Total Stock Index, which I do not own. He's got, what's that, Wellesley or Wellington? This right here is... This is the All World ex-US, All World ex-US. So whenever they say All World ex-US, that means they're including everything except for the United States. So again, Total stock index, 16%, his biggest holding by far. Dividend growth, good dividend growth fund, 16%, tied with the total stock index for his biggest holding. The ex-US index, the international market, all world ex-US index, you got 8% in there. This is a Wellington is that Wellington? Yeah, that's the Wellington right here, which is the second biggest position after the two up there. And then he's got the high yield corporate bond index. All right, so high yield corporate bond index is kind of like a quasi stock to bond, almost like a preferred stock, if you will. It's not a preferred stock. I'm not saying it is a preferred stock, but preferred stocks are kind of like in between stocks and bonds. I say high yield junk bonds are in between stocks and bonds as well. All right, so there you go. That's just 3 buckets. What I would do when I told him is I would actually scratch these two guys and move all that Ginnie Mae. So in this case, I'd have 16% in Ginnie Mae. And the reason for that is why even bother short-term bonds? That doesn't make sense to me. I mean, the Ginnie Mae will serve that purpose for you. This is government-guaranteed bonds, without question. There's not much, and I guess you could say, if the interest rates go up, you don't have the same duration risk, I think what's called interest rate risk, that you would have in a regular bond fund. So no real reason to keep a short-term bond fund or a treasury inflated protected bond fund. The inflation, I get the gauge of that, but you only got 3% there. I forget that. All this stuff will be your inflation stuff. I would have get rid of these two guys, move it all to Ginnie Mae. So now you got 16% in here, 16, and then you got 24% here, if that makes sense. All right, so that's what I would do. It's just a matter of preference, frankly. I like Ginnie Mae. Ginnie Mae serves the purposes of these two funds for sure. It gives you a little bit more yield. There's no more risk. The interest rate risk is the reinvestment risk. If rates go up, people don't refinance their mortgage, so you're going to have lower interest rates than what could be out in the market. Well, you got all this other stuff to compensate for that. So I just think Ginnie Mae is the way to go. The total bond index, I'm okay with that. My concern, frankly, would be is that the bulk of this is government bonds anyway, and it's going to have some government GSEs. Government, what the hell does GSE stands for? Government, I can't remember what GSE stands for. Government bond, mortgage-backed securities. They're going to have a lot of mortgage-backed securities in there, so you're kind of double dipping there. What I would probably do is, you're still going to have 30% in corporate bonds or so. I think GSE is government enterprises, a government something enterprise. I can't remember what GSE stands for. Government sanctioned? Man, that's crazy. Oh yeah, I'm getting old in my old age. I would still scratch that. I would go to 100% corporate bond fund there, 100% corporate bonds. And actually, I don't think I told him this yesterday, because what's happening, you got a lot of duplication. This is predominantly the bond index is predominantly government bonds and GSEs, mortgage-backed securities, Fannies, Freddies, Federal Home Loan Bank, and certainly Treasury bonds. All right, so why do that if you already had a Ginnie Mae covering most of that? So I would just go 100% corporate bonds, frankly. That's what I would do. Now, with that said, your only government debt at that point would be Ginnie Mae's. Well, so the question would be, if we have a down market like we're having now, the government bonds are going to look a lot better. Well, the Ginnie Mae still look pretty good. That's a fact. I don't know. The way I see it, I think the government bond market is being covered pretty well in Ginnie Mae, and I would just stick with that. Corporate debt, on the other hand, will give you a little bit more bang for your buck. It will be riskier. I mean, that's a fact. Corporate bonds go bankrupt all the time. But there's a lot more opportunity, I think, for a bond manager in corporate bonds. And Vanguard's got like a corporate bond index, and that's what I would do. So I would just do corporate bonds, because what you're doing here is you got government, corporate, and this right here. So this is government debt. That's a fact. Corporate. All right. And then you still got a bunch of bonds in here. And I don't know what Wellington or Wellesley, what kind of bonds they own. I presume there'll be some government bonds. I don't know. And you still got some bonds in here as well, some governments and corporate bonds as well. So at the end of the day, that's just my premise. Maybe instead of, maybe I'd split this. I don't know. I don't like having 70% in the index fund. That's just too much for government. Maybe split up 50-50. That's probably what I do now I think about it. I think I split up 50-50 because the Wellington fund and that's going to have some government corporate bonds in there as well. So now you're kind of redundant if you go government bonds, corporate bonds instead of that, you're being redundant here. So you're kind of split the difference. Yeah, I think I can scratch that. You changed my mind on the fly. Look at that, your old buddy Josh. But, I don't hold anything back from you. You got to think this through. But when you kind of think it through, you say, okay, if we have all this government debt here, but it's not treasuries, it's just Ginnie Mae's, and we have all this corporate debt here, if we go 100% in corporate bonds as opposed to the total bond index, then we're re-engaging that. I mean, we're duplicating that. So in this case, I'd probably do 50-50 now I think about 50. And I'd probably do long-term treasury. And then 50, that'd be a long-term corporate. I'm not worried about the duration risk, interest rate risk at all. I'm just not. So I would do 50% long-term treasury, 50% corporate. That's what I do. So I like that a lot, actually. So now you got corporate bonds long-term. I don't know if Wellington or Wellesley or even Wellington, for that matter, have a lot of long-term bonds. My presumption is they probably don't. I bet this doesn't. So I would say 50% long-term corporate, 50% long-term treasury. Ginnie Mae over here, and like I said, scratch those two funds. I actually like that a lot. On top of retirement income, on top of Wellesley fund, that's pretty good. I wouldn't do it. It's still too much for me. It's too much for me, again. But I don't, look, I've been doing this for a long time for clients. And maybe it's just because I'm bored with it. I don't, it's just me. It just doesn't do anything for me. I just like it, set it and forget it, keep it simple, stupid. But Dan, he's got the time, the energy, and the desire to run this stuff. So, man, more power to you, brother. I got no qualm with that at all. All right, so now we got 5 stock funds, all of which I love, absolutely. I mean, you got I love the Vanguard High Corporate Junk Bond Fund. I'm a big fan of that. Obviously, I love Wellington. Obviously, I love Total Stock Index. I love some international. I love the Dividend Growth Fund. I got, nothing wrong with that at all. I got no qualm here whatsoever. My only qualm would be these two guys, and then hopefully he's got some cash as well. But man, look at that. That's a freaking great portfolio. Dividend Growth, freaking kick butt, take names. Total Stock Index, ex-US Index, Wellington Fund, and High Corporate Bond. Man, he's got all bases covered. What a great portfolio. What a great retirement portfolio from Vanguard. Thanks, Dan. I hope this made sense. I know it's kind of wishy-washy there, but at the end of the day, you got to think this through a little bit. When you think it through, like, yeah, that's pretty good. This may be some changes I make, but other than that, nothing wrong with that at all. All right, we'll see you.